Good evening, Bayern Racing fans, and a very warm welcome to the Caged, episode 61. So we're at the 61st episode spectacular. I'm Ed Fahey, and joining me are other members of the Caged family. It's the talented one, it's James Keane.
Oh, you're so kind. I mean, compared to the usual way you ripped me apart at the beginning of the thing, that's the kindest thing you've ever said to me. But it's great to be back, and it's great to be back with the two other podcasters we've got with us. It's like not quite the originals, but I suppose we're back to 3 years ago, and I'm feeling nostalgic already.
And introducing the next member of the Caged family, it's the wild one, it's Jordan Hollands.
Good evening, Ed. Good evening, everyone else. Yeah, good to be back.
And I've already introduced myself as the handsome one, but we might as well say hello to the dad of the family. It's Matt Josey.
Hello, Ed. Hello, everybody else. It's great to be back. It's been a while for me, but yeah, it's great to be back in general, back on the podcast.
Sound like a very grumpy dad altogether, aren't you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm always grumpy.
Nothing to do with the old sport ball now.
Yeah, the sport ball has made me a very grumpy person going back to Standlake Park again. So yeah, I'm a changed person.
Well, you must like it if you keep going back. A bit like racing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. But we're here to talk about banger racing, not football, Ed. Or sport ball, as you call it. Yes,
Are
definitely.
you sure about that now? You're absolutely certain.
Definitely.
Okay, well, we'll move on. Unfortunately, again, we start with some bad news. Mark Annets, a.k.a. 368 Spudgun, passed away last week. Now, it was, again, a great fun racer. Didn't take things too seriously, but, always went for the smart car or rare car. Didn't really matter if it was rusty to him. Like, his trademark cars were the Farina cars, Austin Westminsters, Woldy 1660s, Austin Cambridges, Morris Oxfords. Raced them, rolled them, wrecked them, but came out smiling every time. Matt, you knew him quite well, didn't you?
Yeah, me and my dad knew him quite well. Absolutely devastated about the news on Friday morning. As I've put on my Facebook, he was one of my idols. I mean, a lot of spectators, they look up to the sort of drivers that win races or part of big teams. But for me, I've always been keen on those drivers do it for the fun, have the right attitude, race the classic car, the older cars, and just have the the best attitude towards the sport. And he was one of those people. And myself and many others are absolutely devastated by this news. Obviously, I thought so with Vicky and Max at this time, and everyone else as well that was close to him. It's devastating, really. Like I said, he had the best attitude towards racing. He raced some proper classic cars, some smart cars that even my dad signed wrote for him. Got so many memories. I mean, he didn't race for a few years. You'd known him more from the 90s and 2000s. He raced obviously meets like Sunday blockbusters. He done a lot of London Opens in classic cars as well, including a really old Austin back in 2008. And also a bubble, I think it was a bubble camper van as well. But yeah, it's a sad loss, a huge loss to the sport. He was also one of the guys behind the annual Classic Carnage event at Arlington Stadium. That's been going for a few years now, and it's gutting that he's no longer with us. The Classic Carnage is due again back in end of November. And it'd be great to drivers pay tribute to him because it was one of his ideas, and he was such a wonderful person and driver. Obviously, Ed, like you say, he was a really top person. He had the right attitude towards the sport, and we're just all gutted, aren't we? Really. I
was going to say this is it, but his niece Lauren made the Bears
match.
For
Lauren, yeah,
tribute, didn't she? Lauren, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, James, you was there, weren't you? But she done her uncle Spudgun proud at the Bears meeting in that Volvo estate. Great grin on their face, and they're so alike. They both got the best attitude towards the sport, and that's how it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, and on that, it's like obviously the news completely shocked the community. I didn't know him that well personally because his time as a racer sort of was before I moved to the south, but I obviously do spend a lot of time around members of his family that are still racing regularly down at those tracks. And the Bears Bash, it started with a lap of applause. Firstly, for the marshal that sadly passed away at Brands Hatch that we spoke about on the last podcast, but also for Mark Annets. And the Grand Parade finished with a lap for Lauren going around. By the end of the lap, the entire stadium was on its feet applauding, and by the end of the lap, there were a few tears in Lauren's eyes, understandably. But the way we're going to come on to the full review of the meeting later, but the way it went, Lauren is one of those racers that has the attitude, and you can see where it's come from. It comes all the way through the family. we're talking about in a first time in a national limited Bangor as well, and such an emotional time. Going out there with that attitude, she not only did herself proud and the sport proud, but she also did her family very proud as well. And I'd just like to echo that. Obviously, it's hit you a lot harder than myself, Matt. Obviously, as someone who knew the man. But I'd just like to echo everything you've said, because you can instantly see how much everyone within this community of Bangor racing, the news has shocked them and saddened them. But like you said, I suppose the best we can do is remember the good times and the great memories that he's given us to the sport, and to see that attitude live on within the family as well.
Yeah, he'd want. I mean, another way you got to look at it as well. He'd want us to be grinning, at race meetings. He loved the sport, and it's terribly sad, but he was one of the greatest. Like I said, he was my idol. When I started going bang racing when I was 10. So yeah, it's devastating, but he'd want us to be carrying on, enjoying our racing, and grinning at every moment. Especially if you're one of the drivers on track, don't take it too seriously. Just get out there and have fun.
This is it. That's what racing's all about. Proper old school racer. But the thing they say about most of these guys under us is they had the right attitude. They mightn't have had the best cars, the best results, but the attitude was there. Keep on smiling. So what can we say? Mark Annets, race in peace. We'll move on. Unfortunately, more bad news. Down from the southwest, Mike Hiscock, better known as Half Point from the North Cornwall Motor Racing Club, just got a message through there. Also, not a lot of auto speed. Another good attitude racer, and passed very suddenly during the week, so he'll be hugely missed. So obviously, our condolences go out to his friends and family also. But we'll move on to some more racing reviews and reports. BWS Aldershot. Jordan, you were there.
Yeah, I was. And it was a really good meeting as well, actually. I thought, despite the rather horrendous weather at times, I think we had about 90 cars in the pits, which for Aldershot is more than plenty enough. So Aston Burt turned out a beautiful XJ Jag, as did 288 Carl Sauter. 178 Kieran Bowman Slim turned out yet another smart car for the umpteenth time this year, with a smart Mercedes estate. It was great to see Shane Davis back out as well, in a Mercedes estate, the car that he's used predominantly throughout the Bangor World Series round this year. The meeting started off with 3 heat races, third cars in each. And unfortunately, the meeting didn't get off to the best of starts, with a 442 Ricky Dean sustaining a rather horrific injury, breaking his leg after following in from the very lively Aston Burt on turns 3 and 4. So we're glad that Ricky is on the mend. He had a very successful operation last week. So best wishes to Ricky, and hopefully he'll be back on his feet in no time. I think the meeting sort of carried on from there. Really, there was a long delay getting Ricky out the car, but a massive credit must go to Speedway and all the marshals, because after that, the meeting ran very, very smoothly, with the Oval Track Legends and the Micro FT stock cars as well. 114 Liam Lake was entertaining as ever. He put in a great hit on one of the Bartletts on turn number 2. In yet another Toyota Crown was Lakey. He put that to good use all afternoon. And then the rain came down just before the consolation, but that didn't seem to slow down the action. Massive Jack and Train on the exit of turn 2 with 360 Jackstar getting his Colton limo absolutely squashed by 201 Turkish Phil Milner, who in turn got hit by 760 Joey Reynolds, who it must be said was in very, very lively spirits all afternoon long. And then, we had the wildcard final as well, which was won by 506 Danny Mitchell. And Danny won one of the last chance qualifiers at Ipswich last December to get through to the world final. But this year he won't have to worry about that. He's straight into the world final, and I actually think he'll be a dark horse. He's a driver that always seems to go well in those slippery, tricky conditions. And I think if he has the luck on a night already, that I'm already thinking he could go well in October. And then, the meeting finished with a showdown, which actually saw a decent wreck and train on the exit of turn number 4 on the home straight. Kieran Bowman was involved, 208 PJ Collins as well. I think the Booglers were involved as well. Stephen and Runa as well. Rob Boogler, nearly forgot his name now, a bit rusty. But yeah, no, all round it was just a really good day. Despite the injury in the first race to Ricky Deans. So yeah, massive well done to Speedway, and it actually seems like the BWS is really, really on the up this year, especially. I don't know whether that's because of the increased prize money with the Entertainers League or what, but it's really good to see. And I'm sure we'll maybe mention it later when we talk about the Bears Bash, but I do think a lot of drivers are focusing on the BWS in terms of both entertainment and crashing and special material, and obviously the racing aspect of it all. So no, it's all good. And I think this Sunday's meeting at Yarmouth should be even more spectacular, especially considering last year's meeting at the venue as well.
I was going to say, you raised an interesting point there. An awful lot of drivers are concentrating more on the BWS. Do you think that's because the main prize involved getting onto the World Final grid, or just in general because everybody else is making a good effort, it's better?
I think the Entertainers League has a lot to answer for the BWS, especially over the last 2 or 3 seasons. The BWS product, when it came into fruition, I think 2013, stand to be corrected on that, was a really new and fresh idea, and the first 2 years of it were brilliant, but then I think we started to see numbers decline a little bit more and the action not be as great, and the whole spectacle of it just seemed to get downtrodden again, and all the meetings sort of turned into, to be fair, almost glorified domestics really, where you were going and you knew what to expect, whereas like now you have the warring factions going at it. Drivers are more interested because there's like prize money on the Entertainers League, and you don't need a super fast whizzy engine to get into the World Final. So you've got the likes of Viking, Matty High obviously did it last year. All these sort of drivers that wouldn't necessarily get the opportunity to get into the World Final now have the chance. And then at the end of the year, obviously this makes the World Final a much bigger and greater spectacle for us spectators as well, who obviously want to see the best racers, and they're the likes of Oris, Jack Tuffin, Danny Mitchell as well. But we also like to see the entertainers. So yeah, I think that's got a lot to answer for. The prize money involved in the Entertainers League, and as you said, I think the general emphasis of getting onto the World Final grid as well, I guess, because let's be honest, it is the main National Banger World Final nowadays.
That's it. James, you were there too. I think you were working at it though, right?
Yeah, I was marshalling on the back straight, and as Jordan said, it started off with a big accident for a 442 Ricky Dean's Fat Pants, who took a follow-in from Aston Burt. Now, Aldershot, we thought the weather might be better moving it later in the year, but the heavens opened before the meeting, left a very slippery track, and what was a very square follow-in from Aston, the car just took a little flick to the left as the follow-in went, and it caught at a very awkward angle. And it took a 1 hour driver extraction. Ricky's posted from hospital, 2 breaks to his tibia. He's gone through an operation. Operation was successful, and we wish him all the best with his recovery, and hopefully medical stuff permitting, we'll see him back in the Banger again. But if not, then but even still, we just wish him all the best in his recovery and hope to see him around the track soon. That first heat was won by 65 Josh Gooch, the second heat was won by 506 Danny Mitchell, and the third heat was won by 455 Ricky Finney. The consolations in the BWS rounds have been, without doubt, exceptional pretty much every time, and this one didn't disappoint either. 201 Turkish Phil Milner instantly spinning his traditionally slapdash painted gladiator's car around on the corner, looking for anything he could hit. In the end, he joined the back of a Jack and Train, including 360 Jackstar, who's Carlton limo, still with the dash in, I suppose. as close as you can get to a on the key B2B build, as you'll see in a national banger, was right in the thick of it in front of the grandstand, and pretty much everyone in that grandstand was very entertained. The winner of that consolation was 124 Orish Karkasowski. In the wildcard, all 3 heat winners chose tails on the coin flip, and tails came up 3 times. We did ask the starter if he'd managed to get a double tails coin, but we did check it, and it was definitely heads and tails. But all 3 started from the front, and in the end, as we've said, 506 Danny Mitchell won from 570 Jordan Cummins to book his place on the grid at Ipswich. During the showdown, there was a huge, as you said, Jordan, there was a huge train on turn 4, including Kieran Bowman, who was right in the thick of it all day. There was loads of chaos, including PJ Collins, Sonny Collins, who definitely came there to entertain, and they had a great time at the end of the race. Everyone got out with huge smiles, huge handshakes. It was a really good showdown, really good national banger race, and the end to a great BWS round. So in terms of where that leaves us with the qualifiers for the Ipswich World Final, we've got 617 Jack Overy, who won the first round at NIR. 887 Rob Browning won at Hensford Hills Raceway. 327 former champion Mickey Maskell Jr. won the Arlington round. 252 Biggie Steve Bigler won the Mildenhall round, and now we've got 506 Danny Mitchell, who's won the Aldershot round. We've still got the Yarmouth round and the Ipswich round that's also going to happen at Speed Weekend. Remains to be said how many bookings will be taken for that. Obviously, at Speed Weekend, the pit space is at a premium. But that leaves us where we are with the points. And you said about the Entertainers League. At the moment, it's at the top, we've got Liam Lake, who's got loads of points with the amount of fresh crowns, well sign-rated crowns he's taken out and then put to good use. He's at the top at the moment. Following up behind him, Runa Astonbert, who again, I mean, we spoke about the incident at the start, but for the rest of the meeting, he was that car showed up very straight and went home looking ridiculous. It was bent in the middle, the backs were pushed up. It was fantastic. He put it to use all meeting. Following on from now, Joey Reynolds is in 4th place in the Entertainers League. I mean, we joke about him running rookies about to basics, but he's been absolutely fantastic in the National Banger Series. From now we've got Boogie, Andrew Jones as well, actually, who was him and 28 people won't be surprised to know were having a little bit of to and fro all meeting. Had a little bit of a dressing down from the stewards after a hit in the consolation, and then the Viking Brent Shaw is in 7th place. But it's all looking pretty tight at the top of the Entertainers League. In terms of the qualifiers, Mickey Maskell's already qualified, so which means that Shane Davis is looking pretty good for qualification at the moment. Rob Browning, Danny Mitchell have already qualified, which means Jack Deacon in points would be second from Alex Sutting, Alfie Lee, Ricky Finney's already qualified, Lee Kingsdale. So it's looking pretty tight for qualification, but it's looking pretty exciting with 2 rounds left to go. So shaping up to be a really good Banger World Final at this point.
That's good. You know, at least there's a bit of positivity in the sport at the moment, which is good. It's what we wanted. But any final thoughts on that, guys? Or shall we move along?
I just want to echo, I think the Entertainers League really has done what it set out to do. It's made it... People always used to joke about the BWS rounds being a bit roddy and a bit roundy, and there was various ways of trying to make that less so, including trying to move the showdown before the wild card and saying you had to race in that if you wanted to race in the wild card.
Can I echo that as well? Because I've not been to BWS round at Aldershot since 2015, and that was honestly one of the worst meetings I've ever been to. It was so roddy, but it's good to see that the entertainers, even though the BWS isn't my cup of tea to watch as a spectator, it's good to see that, you know, the Entertainers League is spicing it up. There's more bigger turnouts, some more older cars, and there's a lot more action. So it is good that they've added that, definitely.
No, absolutely. It's definitely done what it's set out to do, because the drivers that are trying to qualify for the entertainers through the entertainers points, it gives them a reason to go out there and, well, entertain, exactly what it's there for. And at the same time, while you've got entertainers out there, it makes it more difficult for the people going for the wins, going for the points, and means that the people winning the wild card really have to go out there and work for it, because they know there are people out there that aren't trying to win the race. They are trying to entertain, they are trying to stop things, they are trying to get the crowd shouting. It means we've seen more varied amounts of cars going. It's not just a load of E-classes and Scorpios. It's we've seen some really good cars going to the BWS rounds. I think it's done exactly what it set out to do, and long may it continue.
That's it. The drivers seem to be embracing it, which is the main thing. So it's only a good thing for us fans. All you can do really is support us, obviously, to be on Speedway TV as well, I think. Another free plug for them. But we'll move on, and then we're off to Standlake. Matt, you're at the Trigger Memorial, but you weren't really too impressed, were you?
No, I mean, to be honest, most modern unlimited meetings aren't for me at the moment. I'm losing interest in it, but it was better than what was expected. I think on the day there was about 6 or 7 no-shows, so it was just shy of 30 cars on the day in the unlimited class. Nothing much in terms of the car front, anything special. As a used taxi from the night before at Bears Bash from number 2 John Bricknell. There's a pair of very smartly presented Mercs for Titty Dave 254 and 535 Tommy Cox. But in terms of other used motors, there was I think it was either a Mark 1 or Mark 2 Granada Estate for Reggie Martindale. And what else was that? I'm sorry, I'm just going through the photos. I think that was it, really. The races were nudge and spin for the first 2 opening heats. Then, final onwards was full contact rules, but nothing too silly. I think it got a little bit better as it went on. I think there was a bit of action in every race, so that wasn't too bad. But I think the stars of the day were the Teen Streets. Another record-breaking entry of those there at Standlake Arena, with about 27 of them, including quite a few fresh cars as well. I think they're great. The Teen Streets are absolutely fantastic. We're pleased that they're going to be back at the Caged Open in December, but they've just grown from strength to strength the whole last year. Started off about 13 drivers on average. Now we're getting 27 drivers a meeting. So it's fantastic to see them thriving now at Stanlake. And also there was around 55 street bangers as well. They were very entertaining all day long. A lot happening there, especially the final as well. I'd say, do you know what? I think it was, as a spectator, if you paid on the day, I think it was value for money. You had plenty of banger races. You had the Unlimiteds, which were, as I said, better than expected on the day for what was there. The street bangers were, I'd say, a bit more livelier than usual. And the Teen Streets were very, very lively, and a record-breaking entry for them at Stanlake as well, like I just said. So I'd say, no, it was pretty good. It was a pretty good day. I think the Teen Streets were the highlight for me. They're absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, that's Stanlake, basically.
So, but you had a much better time at Aldershot B2 Back to Basics fans, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, that was fantastic. Sadly, didn't get it last year because of, damn COVID. It returned this year. A few weeks ago, I think it was the 1st of August, it came back for the second run in at Aldershot. And there was 20 vans, I think, booked in for it. And I think we had 22 on the day. Sadly, there was one no-show which couldn't be helped. It was Son of Zoot 283 was meant to have a Top Gear burger van that what's his face was using a few months.
Freddie
Flintoff, yeah, but sadly it didn't come because some idiot blocked his lorry in that morning. So sadly it didn't attend the meeting, but it should be going out maybe at Eastbourne B2B vans towards the end of the year, hopefully. But no, in terms of what was there, a mixture of big and small vans as you expect. 468 had probably the largest van there, great big Mercedes. 72 Pots had a LDV Pilot. 665 Taux of the Smarties had a Mercedes van as well. But the star van that they had to be the big Iveco Fish and Chip Shop van of 260 Keefe Reynolds. That fell apart in heat number 1. As you'd expect, pretty tame heat 1, apart from that van falling apart. Heat 2 was a bit livelier, but the final instruction derbies, they were absolutely superb. Vans backing out all over the place. Joey Reynolds was one of those culprits on the track. It was fantastic. It was I'd say one of the best van meetings I've been to in a few years as well. It was really, despite having the back to basic tag on it, it really was entertaining. And hopefully it will return at Aldershot next year. So that was another good meeting as well. I think the back to basic vans really are quite a good fixture these days compared to some of the national van meetings.
We do, of course.
Good, I mean.
We do, of course, have back to basic vans at Eastbourne on the bank holiday Monday. So do you reckon it might make it out for that? Because you don't have to wait to the end of the year. There's another back to basic vans fixture in.
Yeah, I don't know. I've not spoken to him, but apparently it might be going out on the Arlington B2B fan meetings. I'd like to have gone to the one in August, but that's the same day as Stanlake Vans, I think. So I'll probably be there instead.
Well, I mean, it's good to see our honorary president for life, Keefe, doing well with it as well. But you're saying there, Matt, it's the racing seems to be blowing hot and cold lately. Is it just that, is it lacking entertainment or what? Like the fact that all the vans got stuck in. They haven't spent loads of money on these vans. They're just literally there to kill them on the day. And
I think it's the fun element as well, because I've been watching too many banger DVDs from the 2000s when, there was loads of big crashes and big turnouts and old cars. And I think when I look at, national banging meetings these days, I just don't get excited by them a lot of the time, if I'm honest. But yeah, I think that's why Back to Basics are so special, because, the drivers are having fun. You can see they're having fun, and there's a bit more action than you would get at some national banger meetings. And, it's just great fun. I think the Back to Basics, you can't beat them.
Oh, that's the main thing. It's obviously probably one of the best things Keefe's ever done. Of all the great things he's done racing, brought B2B into it. So, yeah, it seems to be going well. So, long may it continue. I mean, the review he did a while back with us for Most World Attitude, he was saying, it's all about the fun at the end of the day. So, long may it continue. I know I've just said that twice in quick succession, but, it's a good saying, and it's the right attitude as well. So, as long as everybody has the right attitude, that's all you need, really, isn't it? But we'll move on.
Definitely.
One of the more awaited meetings of the summer, the Bears Bash. James was there. Now, for a change, James wasn't actually working. He was actually
I was working.
But you were working. I do apologise. I thought you said initially you were going just to watch. Did you get roped in the end?
No. What it is because obviously Bears Bash, with the sort of mean is there's 5 marshals on the wall as opposed to 4. So I went down to help our southern cousins, and I was marshalling on the back straight.
So, as I say, how was it?
Yeah, it was really good. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, as a lot of people would have seen. At the start of the week before the Bears Bash, there was 128 cars booked in. That dropped down to 102 by the time the office closed, and only 54 cars signed in at the pit box. Now, we've got to address this. Actually, I'm going to save this to the end. We'll let everyone see what everyone have their say on that. But what did show up, I thought, was absolutely solid, very entertaining national banger meeting for a great course. In Heat 1, 84, Jack Ansell in his Mercedes Hearse won the race. About 24, 25 cars out, and it had to go red and checkered immediately on the end because there was only 2 cars running. Jack took the win from 724. In the second heat, 757 Tom Farron took a win from 623 Ricky Hutton, and in Heat 3 saw all the Bears come out, and that was won by Ace Ash Riley. Now, all three heats had their moments. They were some really good big hits. I think maybe the bar had been set where everyone expects a huge 11, 12 car Jack in train in the heats, but all 3 heats had some huge hits and some really entertaining racing. We then moved on to the consolations. The first consolation was won by 751 Lawrence Wells, but the second consolation was again fantastic, with the second win of the night for 84 Peach Jack Ansell. Another race that immediately went to red and checkers because there was only 2 cars running towards the end of it. He took the win from 477. There were no other finishers. The final had to be the race of the night. It was won in the end by 83 Jamie Murrell, but what happened was fantastic. So what we got on the exit of turn 2, we got Kieran Bowman for the second time in a week getting stuck in, getting his car completely jacked up, causing chaos. We had the guys from Team Real Steel backing out. The leader was trying to dodge everything, got caught up, was caught up for a good minute, 2 minutes, and the roar from the crowd when he finally managed to edge his way through. No dive into the shale, no trying to cut through, just trying to get through the pack, and the pack trying to stop him. It was an absolutely amazing end to the race. He was the only car running. The only reason it didn't go red and check straight away was because it was basically a case of giving him one last go around the track to go for a head-on at the end of his race to celebrate it. We then moved on to the D-Day, which again was great. But it only took 12 cars, I think, came out for the D-Day, but it only took 12 to have a really good D-Day, which ended with joint winners, where we had 266 Callum Hall in a first for the sport, correct me if I'm wrong, in that CLS, and 917 Andrew.
You're right.
And 917 Andrew Chew, who came all the way from Wales, first time at the track, had an absolutely great time. He was absolutely buzzing. There was loads of standout drivers on the day. Spike Jr. in his car, which looked which absolutely looked amazing, and he was getting stuck in everywhere he could. We said at the top of the show, Josey and Annets in the first time in a national limited banger took a huge following. I think it might have been from Ace Ash, but I was looking the other way at the time, busy working, Ed, as you said, not spectating. Took a huge following and then carried on and got out, smile on the face. Now, it was a really good national meeting. It really was good with the amount of cars that were there. The junior bangers were fantastic as well. That has to be said. There was about 30 odd juniors, all in from the start over 3 heats, and that they were causing chaos everywhere around the track. And they were put on as basically a way of making sure the national bangers had repair time, which worked. There was no banger races dropped from the running order, but they were put in there as repair time, and boy were they entertaining. It was fantastic. Great to see an absolutely packed out Arlington Stadium. The second time, obviously, they had the BWS there. It was the first time after COVID restrictions, and this one was absolutely packed out as well. I hope everyone had a good time. Now, going back to the elephant in the room with the no-shows. Okay. Now, I think the bar has been set so high.
Sorry, just before you continue there, right? I just, as you were mentioning each race there, I was counting them out in my hand, so I counted 8. So basically, was it 5 heats, 2 all-comers?
7. It was so 3 heats, 2 all-comers, final D-Day.
Right, 7. So 7 banger races that evening. So, and you were pretty much 50% down on who actually booked in versus who turned up. So basically, they were doing themselves, like, I know in your race, you probably get 1 heat in, you get 1 consolation if you don't qualify for the final. You might get 1 all-comers in a DD. So basically, each driver, if they did well, they might get, say, 5. Obviously, if they didn't get wrecked or whatever, they might get 5 runs out of the car. So they've obviously done themselves out of that. But, what we were discussing beforehand is, the fact that racing is back. Everyone wants to go racing. Great, we've racing again. It can go racing. All those cars are stacked up. All the cars are half built and get all them ready. You think people would be absolutely itching to go racing. And as far as I know, at one stage there was reserves on the booking list. Now, things change, people can't make it or whatever, but fair enough. But I mean, to have half the number of drivers booked in that didn't turn up, we're back to the same again, aren't we?
Yeah, getting close to half. And as I've said elsewhere publicly, it's one of those things that you can't legislate for this. You take those bookings in good faith. The Bears booking list was slightly restricted to people that have been there before, and then dropouts and people come in. There was talk about have people just booked in to see their name on the booking list for such a big meeting and then not shown up. Now, I understand things happen, and it's a difficult time with so many fixtures, and I just can't understand a situation where you end up with over 40 cars that haven't been able to inform the promotion or Michael Burnage from the Bears that they were not able to attend, and for it to drop down so far. But before we drill on that too far, congratulations to all the drivers out there who put on a great show. To all the negative comments it received, I think were very unfair, because we spoke about before about what a great BWS round we had at Aldershot, and then the week afterwards we end up with a better meeting with more entertainment, more tin, but are people holding it to the standards of the 2017, 2018 and even the 2019 Bears Bash, where it ends up with a huge wreckfest within the first few heats? Is maybe that's what's going on?
No, I just, sorry to jump in, James, I think that is exactly right in a certain aspect of it, because I think that those meetings between 2016 and 2018 were so excellent that the Bears themselves had set themselves such a high standard, and obviously with the other drivers as well, that I think these meetings haven't lived up to the expectations. And I know the old cliche with a banger meeting goes, if you go expecting nothing, you'll always come home happy. But I have to admit that I come home from the 2019 meeting. It was my first Bears Bash, and I was so excited in the week leading up to it, because it was a meeting that I'd never been able to get to due to work commitments or other plans, and vice versa. And I have to admit, it was, with the utmost respect to the Bears and the other drivers in attendance, for me it was a little underwhelming compared to the previous years. But I think that is just because there's now such a high standard for a Bears bash that that's maybe why people are looking at this and going, it wasn't as good. As you said, it was probably, in the grand scheme of things, still an absolutely incredible meeting.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
And the amount raised for charity as well, which I know you quite rightly said on over Banger Chat as well. But no, I do think that the higher standards between the years 2016 and 2018 have almost had an impact, and I think it's the meeting is also now a victim of its own success. I know that sounds mental, but I do think it has become a victim of its own success, to be honest.
Absolutely spot on. The fact that if people don't see one of the best meetings ever, they've walked away annoyed, when sort of loses sight of why the meeting exists. The meeting exists for drivers to go out there and put on a bit of a show. Maybe that, again, has influenced people that have booked in and then really had no intention of going there, just to be sort of have their name associated with the meeting. It's been talked about what can be done to sort it out. There's been talks of deposits and stuff like that, but then that sort of thing adds its own issues on top in terms of organisation and other stuff that has to be done. It still packed out Arlington Stadium, raised a load of money for charity. It was a fantastic national banger meeting, one of the best I've worked this season. Some really cool cars out there. The junior bangers are fantastic. I think it's just because there's 3 consistently world-class top 10 that you've ever been to meetings in a row that people now just sort of expect that. And you can't expect that. It's not fair to expect that, because you can't expect every driver. You have no right sitting there watching to expect every driver to go into the back of the jacking train. That's their choice. They don't have to if they don't want to. If it happens, it develops, it goes there. Kieran Bowman, I've spoken about Aaron... So I spoke about Kieran Bowman, I spoke about Aaron Chee, Callum Hall was going at everything, Ace Ash was putting his car into everything as usual, although it was quite surprising him winning a race, but he was still going at everything. Lardenette's going out there with the right attitude. It was a really good meeting, and it's slightly upsetting to see people saying it wasn't, but then, like I said, it's with the expectations. I just hope it doesn't hurt the meeting going forward. I hope that next year we have another strong booking list, but I hope they all turn up, and I hope it carries on doing everything it's done going forward, because the amount of organisation, the amount of time that goes into it from Michael Burnage and the Bears drivers is massive, and it deserves the recognition it gets. I just don't think it, for people to say it's a bad meeting, just is absolutely insane.
This is it. I mean, we've had it down the years. Last year was great. The year before was great. This is going to be good, but it wasn't. But it's all that does. It makes you appreciate the good ones when you have a bad one. Because, I mean, like Jordan said, not every meeting is going to be great. You might go and ask him a lot of crap. You come home, that was brilliant. That was the best meeting I've ever seen. Like, I know these days there's an awful lot of ramping up, these drivers are coming, blah, 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 blah. But I think it's a case of, take everything as it comes and appreciate it. Because, I mean, if you'd have said even, say, 3 years ago, Bears Bash, right, in a couple of years' time, this meeting's going to be, it's not going to be as good. There's going to be 50% no shows, all that. That's never going to happen. Come on, look, the day we've just had, all that. So, I mean, you need to have a bad day to appreciate the good days, really.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. What I also have found interesting, and I'm just wondering, especially you, James, what your thoughts on it are, is potentially a change in what's the word?
Venue.
Discipline of the meeting. Yeah, what type of banger formula should we?
Yeah, I think given the team that puts it on,
Happy Unlimited had their day at Bears Bash. And
I knew Matt was going to say that.
I think that's an interesting point.
I knew Matt was going to say that.
But I was going to say, don't forget. I was going to say the Bears. They are unlimited. That's really all they do nowadays. So they're associated with unlimited meetings.
Yeah, I mean, there have been comments across the community about, like I said, with the format. Now the Bears are famed as a national banger team, as a national limited banger team, and the track it's at is because they are the Brighton Bears. It's their closest big track. So I don't think the format or venue has to change. I just hope that next year that the cars that say they're going again. Now, don't get me wrong, right? There's a lot of no-shows, and I'm not saying that every driver that no-showed has done it maliciously or couldn't have done it. The meeting was obviously changed from its original point because of COVID. But even still, it's disappointing to see that many. I mean, statistically, surely you can't have close to 50 cars having issues a couple of days before. But apart from that, I just thought everything else in the meeting was spot on.
Listen, I mean, we always talk about the whole no-shows thing. I think that's just going to stick with banger racing as much as people, people who won't race roaring from the side saying that's crap, and people pointing down the fingers, do him,
So just quickly, Jack Butler's just messaged on our Facebook chat, which is, I don't know if it's a good point, but I don't know if it would have much of an effect. But he said, don't forget the Mildenhall Saloon Stock Car Foil weekend was the same weekend as well. So I don't know if that would have any detrimental effect on it. I don't know, but
I don't think so.
But yeah, there were no bangers there. I know a lot of banger drivers went to watch it, but at the same time, they could have unbooked.
Still the same principles apply.
It's not like it's just announced.
I would say, to be honest, that clash is a lot better than what the original clash was going to be, because the Bears Bash was originally scheduled to be on the same date as the ORCR 2 Litre National Banger World Final at Northampton. So
yeah, and that would have more clash, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so it's funny that you mentioned the Mildenhall 2 Litre Saloon World Final. Basically, a whole lot of banger drivers going to watch some moved on banger drivers. But I mean, a lot of drivers, some race boats, some kind of, once they retire from bangers, they move into saloons. But again, like I said, I know I keep saying it, appreciate it while it's there, because it's not always going to be around. I think the problem we're having these days, we're getting spoiled, or maybe we're expecting a bit too much.
Yeah, and same with us. Enjoy listening to Ed. He won't be here. We're not going to be here forever, are we? Doing the podcast, but maybe we will. Maybe we'll be here forever.
Okay.
Who knows?
Well, we'll move on from that aspect. And actually, speaking this into my lovely voice, this is the Cage 61st episode spectacular. We were meant to have a bit of a celebration, given that the last one was the 60th episode. But the dad of the family, our commander-in-chief, the dear leader, whatever you want to call him, he wasn't around for the last one. The only person now these days who was on the very first episode of Caged, Matt Josey, it's been an interesting ride. We're nearly 5 years old as well. Caged will be 5 next September, so obviously we'll be starting school and all that. But what's been your ups and downs over the last 5 years?
Well, it's been quite an amazing journey. I've had quite a few projects that I started up. Like I did YouTube videos, banger highlight videos, and that sort of thing. And so I think Caged is the biggest project that I've ever started, and it's grown ever so much. I mean, I remember the first 100 likes felt great, but now we're at nearly 20,000 on Facebook. Obviously, it's mad to think, Caged will be 5 years old next month, which also marks, the 5th anniversary that we lost Wasted Magazine, which is why I started Caged. And of course, it'll be the 4th anniversary of the Caged Full Throttle podcast later this month. I think even next week. When myself and Andy Watts started Full Throttle. So, yes, it's been a whirlwind, really. But the thing that's amazed me most is the support from drivers and their cars. I mean, it's incredible. Every meeting you go to, someone's got Caged on their cars. And some meetings, you've got like 10, even 20, 30 cars of Caged on their cars. It's incredible. And we all appreciate the support at every meeting. It's just brilliant. I know we have a friendly banter rivalry with Northern Bangers, who are, massive right now. They've got, I think, over 60,000 likes on Facebook. So they're huge. But, it's all good fun. And it's great that we got the support we have, and we're grateful for it. I mean, what can we do? What more can we do next? I mean, the goal was to start off with a website. We've now got the podcast. We've got a small YouTube channel as well. But what more can we do? I don't know, Ed. Have you got any ideas?
Well, the thing is, we still are the only banger podcast. There's other oval racing stuff as well, but we're the only dedicated bangers podcast. Don't forget as well, we got very popular last year with the Caged Virtual Series, basically getting real drivers racing virtually. I know that.
Oh yes, and that will be back for 2022 with the Virtual Caged Open and the Weber Crash with Totally Trashed and Northern Bangers. So look forward to doing that again as well. That was all great fun.
Yeah, but I think if you'd have said we were doing a podcast initially, nobody did podcasts 5 years ago, and we're the only people that have. We've got plenty of guests down the years from drivers, other promoters, even other banger pages. We've had Northern Bangers and Totally Trashed on. I'm sure we'll have them on again at some stage. We need to go back to the quizzes as well. Some have been better than others. I'm not looking at anybody in particular as to who does good quizzes and who doesn't. But no, it's been interesting, right? Like, I know that you say a few times, Matt, where did each person get recruited from? You recruited me because I'd been involved with Wasted magazine. That's true. And even to a lesser extent, 20 years ago, I was involved.
It's a bit of everything, because it started off with obviously just me. Then it was Andy, who was obviously a commentator at Aldershot and Wimbledon. And then I think it was... Who was after that? Who was after? Bryson, sorry. We then got Bryson, because he obviously covers the EA scene and has got a lot of banger knowledge. He does great reports and interviews, that sort of thing. Basically, it's getting a bit, someone from trying to get somebody from each part of the country, and then somebody who's good at different things. We've got James, who's like the nerd of the team. He's very good at the technicals and the technical side of things, and all the the laws and the rules and things. So he's good at that. We've got Jordan, who's our little kid that we love dearly, and he's matured into a young man that he's great at his interviews and reports as well. And we've got you, Ed. Well, what can we say about you?
Charming words from the dad of the family is all I'm going to say. Even though age-wise I'm actually the dad, but I don't act like the dad.
I think you're the dad. I think you're the grandpa of the.
Be careful now, Matt. See, the problem is here. All your insults stack up, and then myself and Jordan using the next virtual series. But no, I mean it's you'll frequently hear me say the evolution of racing, the evolution of buyers. But I've seen Caged evolve. I've seen basically the media side of racing evolve, because due to various circumstances, I never actually got the chance really to race, get in the saddle, as I say. So, might as well didn't actually cover us, because I've covered plenty of other motorsport down the years. But seem to keep returning back to bangers for whatever reason. Now, I know you said that came along because of my involvement with Wasted, but even before, even 20 years ago, I was actually involved with the last days of Blitz magazine. So some of my stuff actually got into the last two issues. Back when you used film for cameras, all these digital cameras were stuff you'd see in a program that used to be on BBC called Tomorrow's World. So it was the technology that was coming. Now it's commonplace. I mean, if you'd have said 20 years ago you'd be able to take publishable photographs with a little device no bigger than your wallet that fits in your pocket, you'd be laughed at. But I mean, it's evolved. And I mean, I'd nearly say we could probably get a television program going, because there's so many channels these days. But I mean, there's only, we still at the track is the most important place. And the fact that you see the amount of cars with Cage written on them. I'm thinking as well, 9 times out of 10, we won't actually ask for the drivers to do it. They just do it out of respect, because they like what we do. And I mean, the amount of drivers that we support as well is huge. I know Bryson is the main man behind that. He's just push, particularly in the background. But I mean, every single member of the team is well liked and respected. Don't forget you've Steph, you've Dom, and you've Jake. So, James, like I said, you're the boffin of the group. Of any good memories that you can give?
Well, I think why I love this podcast and why I love K so much is it sort of coincided with me falling back in love with the sport. So as it was, when I was younger, I used to spend a lot of time around Birmingham and Hensford. I moved to London, sort of almost forgot about racing because real life almost took control a bit too much. And then it was sort of, as Wimbledon was closing, I was like, well, I'm in London, I've got to make sure I see the rest of the final season. Fell completely back in love with the sport. And from there, it was a case of I started writing reports for the Cage website, and then Matt said, "Oh, do you want to come on a podcast?" So my first podcast was horrific. I was awful. I could not stop stuttering. I could not get my words out. It was one of the most nerve-wracking experiences of my life. And then from there, it all sort of then escalated. 2 months later, I was then training with Speedworth, and then obviously it's now my 4th season as a Speedworth Marshal. We've taken the podcast in loads of directions. We've done specials at the end of the year where we have everyone on. We've done the Motorsport with Attitude specials. Me and Jordan spent probably over 20-30 hours with Dean Cox producing a special for Speed Weekend, branching out into the formulas. It's been really good all the way, and thanks to you, Matt, and thanks to Jordan, and thanks to Andy, because when I got involved I didn't, and well, more than anyone as well, probably thanks to Bryson, because God knows how many hours he puts in. Getting involved from there, and then obviously then becoming producer, it's helped my skill in doing this escalate. It's been fantastic to watch Jordan from where I met him as a 17-year-old going on going on to become now a trained motorsport journalist and going from strength to strength. It fills me with pride. It fills me with pride to say I'm part of Caged.
And it's like having a son, isn't it, of Jordan? That's the thing. You know, he's grown massively, hasn't he, with his his journalism.
Well, we'll hand over to him for that. But honestly, it's been my absolute pleasure the whole way, and let's continue more.
That's it. I mean, it's great that you can do this. Like, if you said to me even 2.5 years ago, right, you're going to be hosting a banger podcast, and people are going to be very pleased with it. Like, hopefully, I can move on my presenting skills elsewhere. Obviously, you never forget where you come from too. I started off on the original Dave Goddard Oval Talk and just went from there. But he's been buying his time patient in the background, and he's the youngest, but by no means the most immature of the group. Jordan, what's been your memories over the last few years of Caged?
As you guys have quite rightly said, plenty of fond memories. Obviously, interviewing world champions, obviously Stephen Bolton, Sid Madgwick I've done as well, Mick Mescal Jr., Oris, and loads of other top-class racing drivers from other categories, Bobby Thompson when he was in the British touring cars as well. Obviously, I've done Shane Brown. That was an excellent interview. Ash Riley, a very nice guy, very funny as well. Phil Milner gave a great insight to the Gladiators and Cream Team Wars. So, it's just the interviews have been amazing. But also, from a selfish point of view, it's been good to all of a sudden have an array of confidence about me. Obviously, suffered quite bad with anxiety growing up and just didn't have that much confidence in my own ability. But Caged has taught me a lot in aspect and has given me that confidence. And now I've just finished covering the Tokyo 2020 Olympics with Eurosport and Discovery Plus, working as a QA editor. So, that was a special moment in my career. And now I've graduated with a first from university studying sports journalism. And, I'm looking forward to the next stages of my career now. Unfortunately, that does mean that, my work with Caged might take a back step in the future. But as you quite rightly said, Ed, I think it's important to always remember where you came from and who gave you that first opportunity within your career or within your professional or within life generally. And I think that's why I do have a lot of respect for Caged still. But who knows what the future holds for both me and Caged. But it may mean that I may be doing a little bit less in the future. But we'll see.
And I think I can say from all of us, Jord, if you're doing less with Caged because you're going further and further with your motorsport career, every single one of us will be watching with absolute pride completely. So one other thing I wanted to mention as well that Jordan just reminded me of is, in terms of memories from the podcast, the drivers we've had on have always been absolutely fantastic. And just thinking back, some of the guests we've had, and a big shout out for Keith Reynolds and Steve Anscombe, who have come on multiple times and have been absolute quality every time, including getting them both on in one podcast to go head to head in a quiz, which is an absolute favourite of mine as well. So thanks to everyone.
And I just want to say as well, Stephen Bolton, when the podcast was still quite new at the time, and it was just me, Andy and Jordan, and when he came on, it was literally about a week after he won the world final, and he was such a good person to come on. He was great at his interview, so he was another great person as well who came on.
And also it's great. It's also been great as well seeing Caged. Obviously we've done. Obviously, we have our regular column in Wheelspin, and reading Jordan's column, he writes the Caged column, is always great when you see our name there. And one of actually my favourite memories is the last Civil War, seeing us do the Southern Army preview that Jordan wrote, and Northern Bangers doing the Northern one, which I thought was a really nice touch. I think Matt Ball was the one responsible for pulling most of that programme together, and having us do the Southern Army and Northern Bangers do the Northern Army. I think that was really fun when I opened that, and I thought, this is brilliant. It's been absolutely fantastic. It fills me with pride when I see Caged on cars and Caged everywhere else, and think I'm really glad to be part of it. And thanks to all of you guys, the 8 of us, including myself, that put so much into this, and hopefully you guys out there appreciate it. We're not always right, we're not always correct, we're not always brilliant, but we do try very, very hard to get as much banger content out there as we can.
Yeah, I just got to mention there, it just says, I'd like to thank me, and that's from Matt Josey, so I don't know. But like I said, it's been good, it's been an adventure, and it's been an enjoyable adventure too, because, I mean, you know, some people look up at us, some people look down at us, but, you know, like a lot of banger teams, we're cockroaches, we're very difficult to get rid of, we're very tough, and we're very resilient. But you'll see, like, we'll see what's coming next, and I'm sure that with social media, the way it's going, I'm surprised we're not on certain networks, but I mean, you know, we're on all the popular ones anyway. You know, the Instagram page has plenty of follows. I'm not really into Instagram, probably as much as I should be. I know we're not on TikTok, but then again, we're not on MySpace either, so yeah, that's me showing my age.
We're all over Instagram, Ed. We're all over Instagram, and that comes down to Bryson.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
No, I said we're all over Instagram.
Oh yeah, no, Bryson is absolutely fantastic with all the stuff he does there. We couldn't do it without him. He basically does all the legwork in the week, so we can then come on and look fancy when we do this stuff.
That's good. I mean, you know, what more can I say, really? It's been a pleasure and it's been very enjoyable, so long may it continue. The thing is as well, like I found with Jordan, we seem to find hidden talents that we don't realise we're quite good at until it's pointed out to us too. So, you know, it's all good, and long may it continue, really. We'll move on to another subject close to Matt Josey's heart. It was the Caged Back to Basics Open at Ringwood Cheetahs.
Yes, thank you, Ed. It's nearly time. This Sunday at Ringwood Cheetahs, the second running of the Back to Basics Caged Open. Really buzzing now. We are fully booked with 60 drivers and reserves. It was a record-breaking turnout for B2B last year at Cheetahs with 40 cars exactly, and this year it's going to be beaten once again with 60 cars. Obviously, we could lose a few no-shows on the day, so 55 would be quite a nice round number, I think. But yeah, it should be good. We've got quite a few nice cars prepared for it already, including a Volvo 340 and a Mark III Cavalier. It's shaping up to be an even better day than last year, not just the turnout, but like I said, there's plenty of bilge and older cars going. I've got 5 special car awards, which I'll be handing out. That could be for a mixture of anything. Could be oldest, rarest cars or top paintwork on the day. And already there's at least 3 cars that I've just seen from photos. And it's going to be a tough decision for me on the day, I think, because there's going to be plenty of nice paint jobs out there. And, of course, plenty of bilge, hopefully, as well as those that I've already put on our Facebook page. So, yeah, action kicks off at 12 o'clock on Sunday at Ringwood Cheetahs. Spectators are welcome this year, unlike last year. So it would be great to see a bigger turnout of spectators this year as well. It'll probably be split heats, so probably about 30 cars each. Then we'll have maybe a second round of heats, a final, and hopefully an American-style DD to end the day, which would be fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that. We've got a lot of their usual names on the list. We've also got some other visitors who have not raced the track before, including Team PVR duo of 214 Chris Smith and 474 Lee Smithy Smith. So yeah, it should be a good day. This is, I always like to call the warm up to the National Caged Open at Stanlake, and that's always been the idea, really. You've got the National Caged Open at Stanlake, which is the more serious, big end of year finale for national bangers, but then, you know, the B2B Open is just a bit of fun. You know, anyone can win it. Get a car, dashboard in. You might even win it. Who knows? That's always been the idea, so that's why we're doing it. So thank you once again to Steve Holmes and Ringwood Cheetahs for letting us do the meeting. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. It's nothing too serious. No silly hits. Just racing how it should be. Just respect, nudge and spin, and then of course you've got a full contact DD at the end. So yes, I think it's going to be a great day.
That's good. I mean, you're bringing with positivity, which is good. So, yeah, hopefully all that positivity will embrace itself onto the track. But we'll move on quickly. I think it was James won this one. Quick note on the Arrington Gold Rush and the current qualifiers. Also, the Aldershot Ramp Rollover, which is another crowd favourite.
Yeah, no, just a quick one on the Gold Rush. Obviously, that happened last night. The latest round last night at Arlington Stadium was won for the second time by Joey Reynolds, which means that, quite excitingly, there'll be 2 wildcard places available at the Aldershot Gold Rush on the 12th of September. The current qualifiers are also 3:30 Tyler Wilkins, who won the Yarmouth round, 7 Josh Mackey, who won the Mildenhall round, The Ipswich final was null and void, but in the end the wildcard was given to 3, Harley McCarthy, who finished, well, obviously we know why it was called null and void because the driver was unfortunately injured. But so yeah, the Gold Rush is shaping up pretty tasty at the moment, and we've said before about how the Gold Rush isn't really rookie bangers anymore. It's 1600 Speedway domestics, which are pretty close to nationals in all but name, and has consistently been one of a fantastic final every year. So that's looking pretty exciting.
That's good. I mean, then the rollover as well. Is that the ramp rollover, the old-fashioned Scandinavian flick rollover?
I don't know all the details, to be honest with you, Ed. I'll be sort of excited as you to see how it all works out. But everyone loves a ramp rollover competition, especially when it can get the families and crowds in to see something a bit special. Sort of ties in, I think. It was when was it? It was a couple of nights ago. Speedway sort of put on also a bit of a monster truck and stunt show with the holiday makers down in Yarmouth. So these little sideshows, we say, of course, it's a sport, but we're also in the entertainment business. And if you can get more families to come and look at the sport to see the stunt stuff, then hopefully you get a little kid there, watch it and think, yeah, I love this sport. Maybe get involved, maybe become a spectator for life.
That's it. That's what's important, isn't it? It's still a family sport ultimately, and it's easily accessible too. But we'll move on again. Again, a very, very crowded fixtures list. Great to see everything happening. As always, our usual disclaimer when it comes to all this: if you're before travelling, check that the meeting is still on, because there's a few meetings lately have been cancelled at short notice for whatever reason. But I'll do James's favourite part of the show, mainly because I can do this all in one go, even though he's going to try and make me laugh and say something silly. But we'll move on to the fixtures very quickly, basically over the next 2 weeks. The 22nd of August, the Trent Raceway Micro Banger teams. Again, 22nd, Netherbridge Micro Bangers. Stansted Unlimited Bangers Townsend Memorial. And we talked about this earlier on. Great Yarmouth is Banger World Series Round 5. That's all on the 22nd of August, which is a Sunday. Midweek meeting for Skegness with Siamese Bangers on the 24th. That is a Tuesday. Then the following weekend, 28th of August at Tullyround Oval, 2 Litre Bangers, Crimond Micro Bangers, Milden Hall, the Unlimited Bangers Suffolk Open Championship. Same day at Scunthorpe, Pre-75 Bangers. Then the 29th of August, a Sunday, Brampton Youth, the Micro Bangers 50th anniversary meeting. Crimond again, right up the top, Micro Bangers. Mendips down the bottom. Mendips has 4-wheel drive and SUV Bangers. Then a Grimley of Micro Banger teams. Smallfield on the Dirt, Unlimited Bangers. Then Swaffham at Micro Bangers. Same day at Stansted is the 1600cc Bangers, Gary Shep Memorial. And then one we're looking forward to, hopefully, Skegness, Unlimited Bangers Wreckfest. And then the same day at Wharton is the 2 Litre Bangers and Caravan Race. Now, it's a bank holiday weekend, of course. So on the Monday at Buxton, you have Big Van Bangers. At Brampton again, you have the Micro Bangers 50th anniversary. I think that's a weekend meeting. At Kingston, you have Big Van Bangers Crash for Cancer Part 4. Stanlake as well, same day, you have Big Van Bangers. And then at Ansel is the 1600 Bangers Championship of Great Britain and a Caravan Race. And then just 2 quick fixtures for September. 4th of September, Kings Lynn is 1500cc and Unlimited Bangers World of Shale. And the day after at Warrington in Belgium, we've Unlimited Bangers European Championship and Caravan Race. So yeah, plenty of fixtures. Obviously check before travelling, because some tracks, for some reason, the schedule seems to change very quickly. But yeah, very interesting. Basically, another interesting podcast there now, episode 61, the 61st episode spectacular. We'll be back to normal, I think, for the 62nd one anyway. But yeah, it's been interesting, as always. It only reminds me to thank the panelists very much. I'll say thank you very much to, again, we'll do it the family method, the talented one. Thank you very much, James Keane.
Thank you very much, Ed. Thank you very much to Matt and Jordan for coming on again. And thanks very much for everyone listening. It's been my absolute pleasure.
That's good. And we'll say thanks to the wild one. Thank you very much, Jordan Hollands.
Cheers, Ed. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And yeah, we'll see you again soon.
And we'll say thanks to the dad of the family. Thank you very much, Matt Josey.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, everybody else. But yeah, thank you, Ed. You've not really ripped me to shreds tonight, have you? So it's been quite nice.
Do not tempt me, boy. Do not tempt me. Well, you see, it's not your birthday, so we don't need to do that.
No.
Definitely not. But yeah, well, it reminds me to thank the handsome one for even that being myself, Ed Fahey. This has been episode 61 of Caged Full Throttle. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.